What are you looking for when you go to YouTube and you search for comic information? Are you looking for news, analysis, somebody pissed off? The world is ending. I'm going to try and give you all those things in this same video as we talk a little bit about this wacky little fan YouTube community. Let's try it. Hey everybody, this is Perch. Welcome to my what's about 35 minutes or so a day TED Talk. I mean, yikes, that's way too much content. I mean, if I were you, I would not be listening to all this, but it's certainly your call. Your call. I'm curious what people come to YouTube to do. Like, if you're coming here to listen to comic news, there's a lot of news. There's things that are happening every day. It still strikes me that the comic news sites, I think, have become so abysmally shitty that people are forced to go onto YouTube and endure kind of various hot takes and terrible voices. I have my voice, by the way, has been described as everything. Now, granted, sometimes you're listening to me through a headset. Like right now, I got my little Bose headset connected to my iPhone. We're driving down the road at 85 miles an hour. I am speeding like a crazy person. This car drives really smooth, so I don't realize what I'm doing until much later. Anyway, no tickets yet, though. Knock on wood. So, or sometimes I'm at home. I've got a better microphone set up. Sometimes I'm on Wes, and Wes just has magical audio filters that make me sound more coherent and better. So that's always nice. But in general, I'm just amazed that people suffer through what is probably a terrible format. I mean, video on YouTube, dealing with their ads and everything else in order to get news. I mean, there's nothing that quite says that comic news sites are so crappy as this. And also, every now and then, I still feel bad about having the ads on YouTube. I just hate that they're there. But I'll like go over to Newsarama or Bleeding Cooler, and it's like, hey, here's 500 pop-ups. How do you like that? And I'm like, well, okay, this is less than that, so that's good. But or people coming over here for analysis, or coming over here for storytelling. So one of the things I don't do nearly enough of, and it's always because I don't get the details quite right, and then I'm afraid like I'm going to do a video where I'm like that John Byrne, he's a complete a-hole because of this, and this, and then like the video goes out, and a bunch of people are like, oh man, that's a crazy Byrne story, I can't believe it, and then like I wake up in the middle of the night, it's like, oh crap, that was Walter Simonson that did that, not Byrne. Damn it! Now I have to go in and issue a giant retraction, or and so I hate. I need to be able to sit down and kind of write out my thoughts. One of these days, I'll take like a long road trip, and I won't be driving, and I'm just going to write down some of these stories. I got a million stories of things that happen in the comic industry. We don't tap that very much. Or are people interested in like the hot takes? Are you guys? Is it like, the comic industry is absolutely dying for sure? It's definitely going to be dead. It's going to go digital. They're going to just start putting out videos of superheroes eating food. CB Smolsky is going to be all over that. It's like there's going to be like an editor's note back in like the 80s, when they're like, editor's note, this is a pile of salmon prepared carpaccio style. I mean, like, what will the comics of the future be? They'll be so terrible that they'll drive people away forever. I mean, we can speculate on that kind of all day long. I think some of these comics, there's, for whatever reason, and I think it's this natural evolution of kind of the Joss Whedon style of storytelling, where you're going to have some action, but you got to take a little break so the characters can kind of quip at each other, and kind of like it's the kind of the wacky kind of tension relieving moment before we get back to the action. So you get like this nervous, good laugh out of things that you weren't expecting. It's kind of like the way I view Joss Whedon is it's like jump scares. So in horror movies back in like the 80s, they would, and probably earlier, somebody will come on and say, this happened in the 1960s with a famous Polish horror director who used the jump scare first to, anyway. But horror movies use that mechanism to like kind of make up for the fact their movie kind of sucks. You've got, it's like, okay, we got a darkened hallway and the monster's chasing after the girl, and she's had her shirt ripped off, so she's running around in her bra or something. The monster's going to jump out and go, "Bah!" And then everybody's going to jump. I feel like Joss Whedon's kind of the same. We're going to, move things along with kind of either a very boring plot, or maybe there's some action going on. The Avengers are fighting in the city, and the Chitauri are all over the place. They're jumping in and they're climbing buildings for some reason. And did you ever notice, by the way, in Avengers, how like the invasion happens, right? The holes open up and like the things start spilling out and everything, and then immediately like the Chitari start to move to a ground game of just like randomly shooting like hot dog vendors and things, and then like they're in office buildings. Like how'd they get in there? I'm trying to picture. I'm in New York. The aliens come in, and so I seek cover in like the 32nd floor of the Fidelity building, and then somehow the Chitari like come in to use the copier. Is that what like how'd they get up there? Like I don't know. This doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Maybe they blast a hole in the wall, but then anyway. But anyway, the action's happening, and then suddenly, kind of like a jump scare, Joss Whedon will toss out some like joke, like like the Avengers are fighting all over the place and it's looking pretty bad, and then suddenly the Hulk farts, and like Black Widow's like, "Whoa, light a match!" And then like there's a huge explosion from behind her, like where a ship rams into something. It's like not that big a match, and like everybody's like, and then they keep fighting. In many cases, I know Whedon is viewed as having very clever dialogue and all the rest, but a lot of his jokes remind me of like 1980s ski movies where like there's the cool ski guys on the mountain, and then there's somebody else who's coming in and he just wants to like run a ski camp for handicapped kids or something, and there's a girl that's dating the evil jerk guy who wants to bulldoze the community rec center to build like a hot tub store or something. And you know what you know what I'm talking about? By the way, if you're just tuning in now, like how'd you get to this point? Did you just randomly click on the video and then move the little time thing to the center? Like, is that why'd you do that? But otherwise, you've got to be very confused. At any rate, my point is, why are you coming to YouTube channels? Why are you, what are you doing when you come here? What are you looking for? Because at this point, like I said, I'm putting out a little bit of more than 30 minutes a day in content. I'm trying to cover a million and one things. What do you want to hear more of? Crazy stories, rambling like right now? Do you want to get more news? I've heard lots of people say they want more stories about, the comic business, kind of the ins and outs and how it works. I'm happy to do that as well. I try and always feed at least, I try and do one a day, sort of in that realm. I'm touching on a lot of the social stuff. And when I say the social stuff, I mean like why, maybe the psychology of why things are the way they are. This is going to be my hill to die on. I recognize that. Of like, hey, maybe if we're nicer to each other, things will work out. It's like my like, hey, you know what? If you just stop kicking that guy over there in the ass, then he'll be happier, and everybody will get along, and then maybe there'll be some good comics there, and doesn't that sound great? That sounds great, guys. Why don't we just stop kicking each other in the ass just a little bit, maybe a little bit less ass kicking. That'd be swell if we could just a little bit less, and maybe while we're at it, let's stop like dumping hot oil on each other. I like some guys over on Twitter just hanging out, and then you just run in with like a big old can of hot oil and you dump them over his head. And that person's probably not going to like that. That's probably going to make them unhappy because their skin will be burning. And maybe we should just do a little bit less of that. Everybody will be happier. We'll have a happier time, and everything else. I don't know about you guys, by the way, but the election is coming up in November, and I think mentally I've braced myself that it's just going to be completely insane until we get through that. But my question mark really is what happens after November. So if on one hand, if Trump wins, I think there's a good portion of the population that just completely goes ballistic. I think that just people spontaneously blow up, and it will be absolutely nuts. On the other hand, if Biden wins, then I think that some Trump people are angry. But I lived through this enough with Obama. They get mad, and people go on Fox News and they're like "Rah, rah, rah, rah," and they complain, but you don't see like the sustained like 45-day protest. You don't see like I just drove by somebody and they're like out in front of a park and they've got a sign saying impeach Trump, treason, save the mail service. And I'm like, in 2020, I would not have predicted anybody would be holding out a sign saying to save the mail service. I mean, it's like the mail typically, I think, pisses people off. Like every year we hear people complaining about having to go to the post office to mail their packages, and now It's like the postal service has been made a hero because of Trump. It makes me think we should do some reverse psychology on some of this stuff and like think of some other things. You know who could use some support? Firefighters. Those guys are out there fighting fires, and it's got to be a crap job. I mean, think about it. You're having to wear all this gear, like this heavy clothes, and you're running in to a super hot place. It's gonna be sweaty, uncomfortable. You got fire. You're always seen as kind of like the not as cool as the police. You have to do this the firefight. Now you do get to carry an axe, and that's pretty badass. But in general, like firefighters, they could use a lot more respect. I think that's a cool group of people. So can we get somehow like Trump hates the firefighters, so we can get a bunch of people out rallying for a firefighter? Give them some fun to do. Or what about like a movie that was kind of it was a movie that deserved like better. Well, okay, so for example, Legion, that television show Legion. I thought that first season was pretty damn good. Now it went kind of sideways there on season 2 and season 3, but season 1 was really quite good. In fact, there are parts of that where I'm like, man, they're doing Legion as a character way better than Claremont was in the comics. And so, what we should do is somehow get that like Trump hates Legion out there. And then some people can like go out on sidewalks saying, Legion is a great show. And then, the creators can be like, oh, that's nice, guys. Thanks. And that feels fair. Or maybe even further, like Pauly Shore. What is Pauly Shore up to right now? I'm betting nothing good. And he's probably kind of pretty bummed. Or maybe another example, Ahmed Best. He played Jar Jar Binks. Okay. And the poor guy got harassed and trolled, and people were like, you're the worst part of Star Wars. You killed my childhood. I hate you. All the rest to poor Ahmed Best. And so, what better present to Ahmed Best than to give him a little bit of, hey, you're not such a bad guy. We think you're cool. So the way to do that is to like have Trump say he's going to like put Ahmed Best in prison for no reason, just screw it, just because he like I hate Jar Jar Binks so much, I'm going to put him in jail. And then people will rally kind of around the country with signs saying, Ahmed Best is great. He's a national hero. We need to get him an Oscar. Let's really let's put a star on the Hollywood Boulevard for him and everything else. And so this poor guy who endured all this trolling and people saying how much they hated him, he gets like a nice little present. He can spend the next like 2 weeks, or if that. I mean, like if it's trending on Twitter, maybe like you got like a 24-hour period where everybody just loves him. And then it's like, hey, it's just how we survive the coronavirus together. We all just kind of do things like that. But anyway, these are my ideas. Hey, what do you want to hear from this channel? Please let me know. If you don't tell me, I'm going to do more things like this. So please downvote this video and give me some ideas in the comments. That would be great. I'm happy to supply lots of different types of content. Looking forward to it. Like, subscribe. Well, don't like. Again, dislike. Dislike this video. That's what you want to do. Warn people away. There's people who haven't clicked on this yet that do not know what they're in for. So hit that downvote, and then maybe some of them will not. But don't too many of you hit it, because if a lot of you hit the downvote, then it's people are going to come in and see what the train wreck was all about. So you got to achieve a very careful balance. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for listening. And this time, I mean it. Thanks for listening, because you survived this video.